is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Good morning and welcome to Guardian Radio AM. This is C.A. Newry and I am engaged with Aaron Green, who is joining me today as we co-host and have this Man Up.
Yeah, can't call it man down.
Yes, Wednesday. And we are actually having a discussion or continuing discussion on whether the Bahamian man is in crisis. And if they are in crisis, we're looking for solutions. We're looking for solutions, and we also want to showcase and the indication of what this crisis is so we're having a conversation here. We have Ian Munnings, who's our guest host, who's usually here with us on Wednesdays, and we also have Dave Williams, who is a leader in terms of inspiring men in our men movement and reminding us that men lives matter in the Bahamas, because we tend to concentrate a lot on empowering women and tend to forget about our challenge inside the Bahamas. And I want to engage him first. Right? Why do you say Bahamian men are challenged here? What kind of indication, what hints are you saying that? Clearly, we have mothers who support both their children, their male and female children. Right? So when you say to me that Bahamian men are challenged, I don't understand how is that when we have a society where women here in general are nurturing. They take care of their own. They take care of their men, their boy child, and their girl child equally.
You use the word challenge. Mine is basically broken, and man has been broken, or man experienced brokenness, and it comes in a number of cases through relationships. As a matter of fact, I don't have no statistics to support this, but I could say from speaking to persons, a number of those individuals, and it's not right now, but a number of individuals are actually incarcerated today because of seeking to get monies to support their females, and things along the line are women related, right? And as a result of it, they are incarcerated today. So I'm saying that to you to say that's why I use the word men are broken, right? I believe a part of the reason is, now I have statistics to prove this. While I was in maximum security, I was speaking to about 103 men, and I've said this before on the radio. And then I asked by show of hands, how many men in here grew up without a father? And 80 of those men actually raised their hands. I had somebody take the time to count, right? I think this is why when I talk about going back from a spiritual perspective, back to the role of men as leaders, the absentee of fathers in the home, because now I'm not a scientist or some social scientist, but could it be that because 80% of those men raised their hands and said they did not grow up without a father in the home, is there a correlation in the sense of that being a part of the reason why they ended up in prison or influenced along that line? So the point is, men are broken. Men go through the experiences. Most of the time, the focus is always on the broken woman. But who's addressing the broken men? Men need a space. I'm sure you're going to agree with me. Women tend to talk more openly, right? Whereas we as men have a space where we can go and we can share our brokenness. I had we were by Pastor Carlos Reed Place, his group called the Brotherhood. And to see a group of men were sitting there and were able to talk and were able to share. And the information that came out of that will blow everybody's mind. Because you see, every man there, we come together, you're walking around strong, you're out there talking about anti-gang violence and all of this. But when all of us was in that space and one person started it, to hear others talk and share. And then reality hits you that men going through stuff too. And so we have to be able to deal with men. We have to address men. Don't mind me sitting on Guardian Radio looking strong and everything. I experience in my brokenness too. And other men likewise going through their things. So I'm only saying all of that to say no excuse for what we do. We have to be able to address men in that space and deal with you use the word challenge, I use the word their brokenness. And I think that's once we get to the root, Dr. Sandra Dane Patterson mentioned this to me for the Road to Peace in December. Once we get to the root of this brokenness, it begins, in my opinion, the healing process. And so this is what we have to deal with. You use challenge, I say broken.
Okay, and a number of young men are being brought up by single mothers.
Right.
Right. I want to know, even speaking to Aaron, how has that impacted men, young men in general, to get to this brokenness? Is not having a father figure home adding to this dilemma of brokenness?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, first of all, there's like a cultural expectation, right? Like as we know that single women have raised men.
Yes,
We know that
yes.
single women have raised strong men.
Right.
Sometimes there's a space like, yeah, my mother's doing a good job, but the absence of a father, just me knowing that my father is not there, can be a trauma.
Right.
No matter how well the mother does.
Yes.
The second thing is that it can create a problematic dynamic, other dynamics, when it's just the two of you. And so the young man is not just is pouring his vulnerability into his mother. He's open and he's exposed. This is my first love. This is the person I trust the most with my feelings. But then this is the only person to discipline me as well.
Right.
And then she rules over me, right? Because she feel like she need to let me know you is mine, but I's the boss, right? And so there can be a problem. It can be problematic if there is no male figure
Right.
to turn to, right? There's no male figure to balance things with. And then sometimes a young man needs a man's perspective. It's not that the mother's not capable. It's not that the mother don't have sense. It's that the man needs a man's perspective. And that's just something that a woman, she could share. She could go to her male friends and say, look here, this is what I want to talk to him about, give him a male perspective. It still isn't the same thing.
So there's trauma. And some of the trauma comes about by single mothers doing their best of raising their young boys because young
Right.
boys need a male figure in their life in order to feel whole.
Not what she does, but the absence of things in the space, right?
Okay.
Another thing is unprocessed trauma. A young boy that witnesses his mother go through trauma, but cannot respond in an appropriate way. So the man, he is buying the things. He buying the snacks. He buy a piece of uniform for me, for my siblings. But he come in this house like he own it, like he's my daddy, like he could beat me and my siblings and my mummy. The young man that cannot respond to that appropriately, the young man that has no one to go to, the young man that can't stop it, he just got to sit there and witness it, right? If that is unresolved, trauma is created in that space and it plays out. It can play out in the rest of his life if it's not resolved.
So I need to know, what should we do? What I find strange is, right, a young boy who watches his mother go through so much, one would assume that he said, boy, when I become man, I ain't gonna never do that to anyone who I love. I ain't gonna go out there and abuse her. I'm not gonna go there and have all kind of different women. I'm gonna be nurturing. I'm gonna be supportive. And it seems that something, what do you call it, inherited happens, right? Where they witness this trauma, and they now feel as if they have to repeat it.
Some of them do, Some of them say, look here, I ain't gonna never be that man.
But you are that man.
I ain't gonna never be those parts of my daddy. Or I ain't gonna never be that man. And they don't ever become that man. They work very hard, intentional about not being that person. Some men try very hard and then they get triggered. They could go 10, 15, 20 years in their life and they think they have it all under control. And they have an experience with a woman who says something inappropriate. She intends to dig at him and she hit the target. And he could snap. All of that unprocessed trauma that he thought he processed.
But he never did.
But he never actually did, right? And even if he processed it, it could still come right back up. We got men dealing with that as well. And I think that's a lot of what we see happening. The most vulnerable relationship a man has from, I think, childhood is with his mother or primary caregiver, right? Mm-hmm. If that's a woman and you're in a relationship with a woman now and you've decided this is the woman who I'm going to be vulnerable with, and she says something
Triggered you.
that triggers you, it just snap. And and some men say, I don't know what happened.
But this is the reason I'm saying that I think that we need more mentorship programs where more males would stand up
Right.
in that gap and say
Oh, yeah.
this is something that is needed, not because I'm being paid for it,
Right,
Not
right.
because
Yeah.
it becomes a social media thing.
Yes.
But it's because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
I think that we have to, as men, stand in the gap for the younger persons with these mentorship programs.
Right.
Because like you're saying, is that a single mother raising a son, I call it a son, he was a boy then.
Yeah.
There comes a time when his boyhood is no longer there. He's
That
now going
challenge is
into,
gonna-
he's going to challenge that role now because he's feeling himself as a male.
Right.
He knows that something has changed in his body and he's feeling it. She once could have beat him a certain way.
Yes.
He no longer feels the beating the way that she used to put it on him.
And that's part of the reason why I wouldn't start off on the road of beating.
No, she has.
He started holding the belt now.
No, but see, chastisement is necessary. Because
but
this is the reason why when parents look at their children as if they were equals or they were friends, and then the rules and the lines would be crossed. It's the same thing when we went to school and we knew we had teachers. We know that there were certain lines that you should not or you do not cross.
Right.
If that teacher calls your ma, or you say your mother, don't let her have to call the man who they say is your daddy. Because then the reality is, she may then take ease on you and you deal with your home. But that boy would coming up there with the belt, he likely to beat you in front of your whole class. The class.
But I feel you, and that's been effective in some ways. But for some people, that's been even more traumatic, and it's caused even more trauma. I'm gonna suggest that type of fear may be useful, but it's far too problematic than helpful. We have to find other ways to inspire and to motivate and to evoke
Are we going to
a
put them
different behavior.
Are we going to put them in the corner, tell them fold their hands?
No,
And
no,
just look at the
no.
wall?
I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about timeouts. No. You know, I'm not talking about timeouts and medals for being quiet for 2 minutes. But something has to work, and it's not just in the family. At the very top of the spectrum, government has to figure out how will it discipline or cause Bahamians to discipline themselves.
Okay.
Right? We take it a step down. How do teachers, how do parents, how do community members discipline or cause young people to discipline themselves without the threat of violence?
Through conscious decisions and through communication. Because I find that a lot of situations what may deal with a particular problem, right, CA, can be dealt with by just mere communication.
I want to put this out here, and I gonna make this violence gets violence.
Yes.
Let's start off with that, right?
Okay.
And Dave early in the program said, as a Christian man, he would never physically harm his wife because, as a Christian man, his reaction is out of love, biblical principles, right? And I want to know about the women who chastise, who publicly scold men, to call them all kind of names, diminish him. Is that violence?
Yes.
And if it is violence, what does that cause? Does that cause trauma? That
Yes.
men go crazy when their spouse, their significant other said you're good for nothing.
Yes.
You can't provide
he doesn't
for
feel
me.
respected.
Right? You are a 2-minute man. You cannot satisfy me. You are no good man because you haven't done anything for me lately. That type of narrative, conversation,
Psychological
is that trauma?
violence, yes.
Is that violence?
Abuse. That's
Is it
abuse.
abuse?
Yeah, I don't use the
That's
word violence,
mental-
but
that's mental and physical.
I shared this before. That's abuse. I had a call from a gentleman I met who I knew after running men's program, and he called me, and I said this on Guardian before, and he said, Dave, he didn't reach me that night. He reached me the next morning. He said, I was calling you. I said, why you calling me? He said, man, all night I tried to reach you. I said, what happened? This woman would not leave me alone. I needed you to talk to. I said, what happened? So he came home. He was tired. He was hungry. He was sleepy. He said all he wanted to do was just rest and relax. And he said she just kept yapping. And he said, I knew if I had called you, at least I can talk with you for a while and that would have calmed me down. Because he said, Dave, now, I know you always talk about men and all of this. He said, I don't believe in physically beating a woman. But he said, I was so close. I'm not saying it's right. He said, because she was just constantly.
Was it raining, Dave?
I know, I remember.
Because it wasn't really nice that Jesse would go on top of the rooftop,
Oh,
like Cecil would normally
like
say.
right. But my point is that was a form of abuse, right? And so I said to him, well, I'm glad you called me and you were able to talk that morning when he reached me. But I said, well, I'm glad you didn't respond because he said he was so tempted to. That was the only way he knew then to release his frustration and to stop her. Because he said he went in the kitchen, she behind him, yap. He went in the bathroom, she closed the door, she, like everywhere he go. He said, that's what he said to me. He said, I didn't even want to make love. I was just hired. I wasn't into nothing. I just wanted to just relax. But she just yap, 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 yap. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying, to respond to you, that was a form of abuse. But women don't realize it. It's a form of abuse too. When you withhold yourself from me because I didn't buy you what you want. You know, I mean, we can look at that in so many ways. We don't discuss it. But they are forms of abuse when women do those things. But society don't look at that. But that's what you're doing. You're abusing
Why are
it.
you looking at me, Ian?
And so there are some women who are abusing men
Yes.
and causing men trauma, and where they are unable to think or survive, and they act out.
Listen, I got some advice. First
Yeah,
thing,
because
this is what I tell all
we-
men.
Some,
Stop
see,
looking at
some
me. Ian.
Some men get sick and tired.
me-
I
let
get
me-
sick
let
and
me
tired
show
of
you
your
this.
woman telling us if you was a real man.
Yeah.
Real man. How you know what real man is? You woman can't tell me
What a real
what a
man.
real man
Yeah,
is.
because they could tell you what their daddy was. Their daddy was a real
If
man.
you's a real
That's what
daddy,
they know him. That's what
if
they
you's
know
a real
him.
daddy, but you can't tell me if you's a
So
real
watch this.
man,
Here's what
you
I
would
tell,
do this.
Here's what I tell all young men, right? First of all, nobody could force you to get married in this town. And once you could duck the first bullet, you could make it to the courthouse. Even shotgun wedding, don't have to stand. The second thing is this. You talk about every single thing before you married that woman. You don't just talk about it, you and the woman. You go to the priest. You take advantage of the counseling services that are available, right? And this is the rule. If you're too uncomfortable to talk about sex, then you can't have it. If you're too uncomfortable to talk about it with your partner, you can't have it. If you're too uncomfortable to talk about it with the priest who's supposed to marry you can't have it. You're not mature enough for sex. You talk about everything. So first you and your partner talk about it. Then you and your partner and the priest who can marry you talk about it. And then you and your partner and your family, your immediate family and their immediate family, you talk about it. Every single thing you throw on the table. When you come home, it's your birthday. I forget to buy you this thing. What you gonna do? You gonna be around here about, oh, you must he don't love me because you ain't buy me this thing?
But you know what the woman think about a man's birthday, you know what she's trying to give him for his birthday.
Yeah.
Crab and rice.
Even if she forget about a gift, I mean, she's saying the gift is her.
Yeah, see, I want that no more.
Well, we talk about gender equality. Want me to show you one way? If y'all never heard this before, gender is not equal. Anytime it comes to man, we use this word real man. You ever hear anybody talk about real woman?
No.
Yeah, they doing it now.
They're doing
Yeah,
it.
boy,
we need to use it now.
I
boy.
hear it, yeah. But everything, I did a training on gender-based violence, right? And it's a training led by some persons who came out of some men in the Caribbean. On the gender-based violence training, they had these listings. If you take care of your child, you're a real man. If you don't, you're a boy. They had like 12 listings of that. So I jump up and I said, hey, what's this? Right? It became controversial. So I said, so the leader person who's leading from the Bahamas, this was an IDB training led by the Citizen Security and Justice Program. So, because she realized that these are her guests they brought in, the government brought in, the Bahamas government. And so she tried to calm me down. I said, no, I can't accept that. You get 12 listing here. If you take care of your child, you're a real man. But if you don't, you're a boy. If you do this, you're a real man. I said, but the same is not applying to women.
So
Now,
would you
hold on,
call
let me
it? No, but let me ask him.
Yeah.
Willis, would you call that real man narrative abuse?
Well, that could be abuse too. I said, so they asked me, well, how would you put it? I say responsible. You are a responsible man if you
Right.
take care of your child.
Right, you're
and if
responsible.
you don't, you are
'Cause
irresponsible.
that can't take away your manhood.
Okay.
So I said, at the time I was about 54 or 55. I said, hold on. So you're trying to tell me, if I don't take care of my child, I's a boy? That's what you're telling me.
Diminish you altogether.
Yeah.
But the
So
question I
hold
want to
on,
ask Aaron something.
wait,
All right.
before, because I didn't know Mr. Williams could row. Thank you. Now we can switch into
Now you
the
did wrong. Okay.
There is the not real woman trope.
I've
You need to
never
give
heard
example.
that one.
Give
Yeah.
an
I'll give you an
example. Give me an
First of
example of
all,
that.
It started off with she's not a lady. She's just a woman. It started there.
lady is
hold on,
different,
listen.
right?
A lady
No,
is
listen,
different. A
hold
lady
on,
has
listen.
class.
Hold on, listen. See, you're doing it right now. You're doing it right now.
classy woman.
You're not a lady, you're just a woman. The next iteration of it is they're just females.
Okay.
And emotional. When you
No,
talk
no,
about-
no, right. But that's one of the instances. But instead of using the appropriate term woman, they say females, and then
Oh,
they'll tell you
lady.
because she's not a real, is not deserving of the respect of a woman. That's why she gets the label these females.
Is that based on how she carries herself?
But it doesn't matter. It's the same thing that we're talking about.
I'm saying if you
No, no, but
meet
it's
a woman,
it's like
you distinguish
saying-
the difference between woman and lady.
No, it's like saying that he's not a man because he's not taking care of his children.
Responsible.
No. It's like saying he's not a man because he's not taking care of his children, when really what you're saying is he's not a responsible father or responsible man.
Because I'll ask a question. That there are some females when they look at their males
Right.
counterparts, and if they're not together anymore, they consider, they call him, he's a lousy man.
Yes.
But my thing is, if he is a lousy man, if that is what he is, what was the criteria that he came with to get you?
I mean, I was about to crack a joke, but I forget being rowing mode.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm about to say to you, sir. That is abuse. No, that is a signal. No, the signal of an immature person. We've been in a relationship.
Right.
We've had children. We're broken up now, and you only refer to that person as you're lousy. This,
Right.
you're no good. This. That is. I want to be bold and brash and say that's degenerate, right?
He's taking
Yeah.
the court. He's
No,
going to court, though.
listen. No. That's problematic. It's immature. That is the father of your children. How could he be good for nothing?
Right.
What is the implication of that statement? I'm agreeing that that is bad language. It's abusive, and we should dissuade people from that. We should encourage people to move away from engaging people like that. Like you said, was I a good for nothing? Was I good for nothing when we decided to have this relationship? Was I good for nothing when we brought these children into the world? It's something that we have to deconstruct and do away with. It's problematic, and it does nothing for men and women, and we should discourage women and men who say they love each other from that type of language. There's a problem in the system. Ain't nothing. I don't think there's anything wrong with men and women. There's a problem in the system, and we need to fix this system. Like I say, I'm gay. The people say that means you don't like man. I love man. I don't get it, right? There's something wrong with that system that suggests that because you're a gay woman, you have no love for man. We got to change all of that. We need a new dispensation.
But then some people may look at as looking at it as a preference, and you're saying that okay, I'm gay, and they may look at it as that you may have had a bad experience or bad breaks,
Yeah.
and because of the bad breaks, you say, hey, I just finished with that,
Yeah.
and I prefer to do this.
Yeah. It could be an act of love. Imagine that. Imagine that it's an act of love. Imagine that I say, look here, I ain't got time to be in a relationship with a boy who gonna get bruised up. Oh, you with that queer woman. She say she like woman and she like man. Ain't got time for that. It's an act of love. We gotta learn to love each other. But I think at the end of the day, men who love women and women who love men need to really dive deep into themselves and the society and the dynamics and ask, do we really love each other? Is it evidenced by the language that we use, how we talk about each other, how we talk about the bad times?
Then I'll ask you this, Aaron.
Yeah.
Is there a need for general society, civic society, to teach women, and by extension teach men, to love and respect a man in general? This is how you talk to men moving forward. And vice versa, teach young boys, this is how you communicate, engage, date, court, and
Yeah.
deal with women and different aspects.
And to teach women, this is how you engage other women, because a lot of young men learn how to treat women by watching how their mothers treat women, how their mothers define women, how their mothers identify women, across the board. So it's not like I say, it's not a man is wrong or woman is wrong. The way we doing this living with each other thing is wrong, is problematic. And go on.
No, I just thought of something else. Recently, the wife and I had a debate about alpha females, right? And you earlier said there's a misnomer. It's not no such thing, or you disagree with with the definition, or we need to define it. And I was telling the wife, I cannot appreciate the term alpha female because I don't have a definition for what an alpha female is. I can understand what an alpha male is, and strong and aggressiveness. When you apply that to women, right, I find that what also accompanies that definition for women is cattiness, where they backbiting
Right.
and tearing each
Because-
other down.
because
And I think,
alpha-
that can't be alpha.
Because alpha is actually like a negative term, right?
It
Like
should be a negative term.
when we apply it to men, we're talking about a lot of the negative aspects
Yes.
of masculinity.
Yes, yes, yes.
Is actually the alpha male, and so you would see a similar play out with the woman. It's a problematic term.
I appreciate that.
And it's actually false. That's not how animals behave in the wild, which is where the term was taken from. And so we are ascribing something that's incorrect to human behavior. And we just need to do away with it. But we got a caller here, and then we got some text. Mr. Newry, Mr. Munnings, Mr. Williams. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
I am listening to your program, and I find it very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. And Aaron, I tell you, you're doing a good job of holding your own. But one thing I think is lacking between both man and woman is the word is respect. We are losing respect. And is that Mr. Williams on your program?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
yes,
Mr. Williams,
yes.
I must commend you. You're trying very, very hard. Don't give up. Continue trying. I think perhaps our young men, our boys, to be a part of this engagement, these discussions, and the rest of it. But the show is very, very interesting. And if you continue, perhaps what we want from our boys, what we want from our men, might soon catch on. And we females, we are at fault because, I know I'm going to get in trouble. But if you were to look at our young women and the way they carry themselves, hey, y'all don't have to guess what's going on there. They flaunt it in public and the rest of it. So I think really what we need is a matter of respecting ourselves. I think that is really lacking, and I must commend you. It's a very interesting show. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And the intention of the show is not to be the last word,
Right.
but to model and to show people have these conversations.
Yes, the discussions is excellent. One of the things this sometimes can become controversial, right? But I always talk about the risk factor. So when I talk about the gender-based violence and sexual violence prevention, I've had the opportunity myself, and Kendra Bowl, that's my partner in ministry. We taught 25 sex offenders in the prison. Now, this is a program, it's so sad to say that it has not continued. We were shut down because of COVID. The last count I had, there was 180 sex offenders at the Department of Corrections. And I think that if it's anybody who program should have been on a continuous basis, should have been them. Because had we gotten our start when this year, we now we're in November. That means our program is designed for 3 months. We brought in Dr. Sean Knowles to give the professional counseling. And we could have at least graduated now at 25 a class for the first 9 months of the year. We could have graduated at least 75 of those, right? Because at what point we don't know when they can return back into society. But I saw that to you to say. So like those, and educating the men. We have them sitting there. They ought to be educated. They ought to make preparations for society. Like I say, Kendra and I are not the professionals, but at least we have some training. And with Dr. Sean Knowles, who is a professional, psychiatrist, yes. Right? So he could take it to a new level, right? So in us, I only say all that to say. So in us sharing these programs and educating, communicating, engage, transform, this is what we need with our men. This is what we need with our boys. So Lyndon, I could tell you this, 30 years ago, I was at BEC. So Lyndon came up with the idea of a national youth service. That was criticized, Aaron. That I can remember I was to BEC, just come to BEC, young 21-year-old. Some of the fellas was telling me, oh, boy, that's for you, Dave. You all young boys, you all going in Penland Army. But Aaron, 30-something years later, I believe if we had gone in Penland Army, we wouldn't have some of the problems we have today. So fast forward, what could we do now? I think the Defense Force, I saw Dr. King, you ever pass by SC on a Saturday? I see hundreds, maybe thousands
Yeah,
of young boys and girls. We need to do the same thing with the prison. We need to do the same thing with the police and other youth organizations. My church, I'm an Adventist. The Pathfinders, we run programs every Sunday. This is what we need now to tackle these young people. We ought to have them involved on a Saturday, on a Sunday, have them involved in youth programs to start the transformation for the next 20, 30, and 40 years from now.
Volunteerism is the key at a young age.
Yes.
It gives them something to do, and it gives them a sense of responsibility and a sense of onus to the community. These people are whole, but they can't do without me. I need to be there. I need to be at my best. I need to be a part of the program for it to survive. Volunteerism is so important.
We have any text there, Aaron?
Yes, we
Get
do.
through some of those.
Hello, I tried calling in a few points. Dear texter, you could call in again. The gentleman who does the prison visit should not say things like no straight man would ever rape in prison. No, okay, that wasn't Mr. Williams who said that. That was Mr. Munnings. Mr. Munnings ain't ever been to prison, and he ain't no raper. He don't know nothing about raping. Forgive his ignorance. 'Cause that's for real. That could be seen as denying the toxic and dangerous environment that is prison. Also, if you're only focused on the biblical role of men, you are not preparing them for evolution. Female empowerment would not be a threat to an evolved man. Now, I'm going to respond to this text. Mr. Williams didn't say anything to me that suggests he felt that female empowerment would be a threat to an evolved man or to the biblically rooted man.
No.
Right? That's not what he was saying. What is a man who is deeply rooted in the biblical perspective. This is a mode that he has found most effective, not just for himself, but the majority of constituents he works with, right? He's not saying it's the only way. He's saying it's the way that he has found most effective for him. And he sees there's a space for the feminism
We work together, man.
in there.
Mutual respect.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And to the text I want to say to you, as I was saying to you, from the biblical perspective, this is why I'm saying as a male, I've 50 plus years old, never hit a woman, never rape a female. Will never rape a man, neither too, right? But
Gender equality?
Yeah, gender equality. But the point is, it is because of the biblical guidelines. Because of the biblical guidelines is why I would not allow stand up if I could do something and see somebody hit somebody of a homosexual or lesbian persuasion. It is the biblical principles because I recognize the mandate is love for someone, even though we disagree. That does not give me the right to stand by and allow somebody to insult them.
Absolutely. The texter followed on, yapping about what? Withholding is a form of abuse. Mr. Man, if you are passing this information on, you are not preparing men for communication. Dear texter, he said, the woman who says, you didn't buy me this thing, I tell you to buy me, so I refuse to have sex with you. Right. It was a specific situation that he was explaining. And I think that's valid.
Yes, yes.
I think what you said earlier, Aaron, was very important. I think we have to track back to that, right? You said that when you're engaging in these relationships to be married or so forth, you have to lay all of the cards on the table. So we don't have any secrets.
Yes.
We don't have any reason to not know what he expects and what she expects.
Right.
This is where the mutual respect comes in. Because so she knows the rule that, like you said, when he comes home, she knows the pressure that he goes through. So once he gets home, she knows what to do to soothe him. He knows that she's had a pressured day. So she wants to vent in communication and conversation. So he opens himself to listen to what she has to say. At the same time, she knows that he may suffer from what Miles used to say, the must get it syndrome.
Right.
And she helps him in that event, even if she doesn't feel up to it, because she knows he needs to be serviced in that particular area. Rather than him saying he can't get it, he's already frustrated, and that he's going to go out there and pay for it or do something crazy.
But you got to talk about all of these things before you enter the one contract they say you can never break.
The binding one.
Right. Anyway, that's that music.
Yes,
Mr.
it sounds like
Newry.
we got to go and break. But what I want to talk about when we come back is culture. How is culture, how we react to each other, men and women? And that's what I want to talk about when we come back. This has been Guardian Radio AM with C.A. Newry and Aaron Green. And of course, we have our guest host is Ian Munnings. And of course, our guest today is Dave Williams. And we'll be right back.
Remember when Zoom was just a sound effect? When your living room wasn't your gym? When a cough didn't scare people away? That was the good old days. And thankfully, they are coming back. As things return to normal, remember it is essential to be fully immunized against all vaccine-preventable diseases like COVID-19, diphtheria, tetanus, measles, and influenza. This message is brought to you by PAHO WHO, the Ministry of Health and Wellness, the Caribbean Development Bank, the Government of Canada, and the United States of America.
Love the show? Want to give your support? Become a sponsor today. Call 302-2300 for our rates and packages. That's 302-2300. Become a sponsor on Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
And welcome back to Guardian Radio in the AM. And we're going to go to the text. But I wanted to ask this question, Aaron, right?
Yes.
Culture seems, or negative culture seems to be overwhelming us, right? And this is why the bad behavior is happening. But this is my concern. Who determines, or who's the main person that dictates culture? Or if 70% of the homes are brought up by women, and the school and the church are mostly women, that women teach other women how to take care of their homes and how they should teach them they should be treated by men, how to navigate inside the society. Who is teaching men or young boys how to treat women? And who's teaching these young boys that this negative behavior that they're showing toward women? Where is that coming from? Like, who's telling them that, hey, you're not you're not washing the dishes, boy. You'll take out the garbage. Who is saying that you're not cleaning the house? Let your sister do it. You're not washing the clothes. Let your sister do it. Who is teaching that?
But look here, and when we go back to the study, the things that came up in the study of the 10th and 12th graders, mothers are the primary
Instructors?
receptors of culture. I mean, not receptors, they're the primary pushers of culture, right? The children spend most time with them. Children speak the language of the mother, not just the lingual, but culturally as well, right? And obviously, society is reinforcing this, right? Like a mother could teach a child something when they go out into the world. Society will teach them something as well. School community will teach them something. Blocks community will teach them something as they get older. Bar community, club community will teach them something. And so, what are the strongest voices? It appears as if this negative behavior and cultural attitudes are being reinforced across the board. For many things, right? There are many instances where women are telling their sons, oh, don't trust these women.
Definitely.
Oh, right. They just want your things.
Yes.
Oh, definitely.
Right? Oh, she's being sweet now, but wait until you make it great. And so across the board, I think it's not just men teaching men these things. I think forcing it directly and indirectly, right? And so every time a public situation where a man hits a woman or there's a physical violence and women don't step up and say, look here, gal, leave the boy. Mm-hmm. We have a place for you to keep you safe, right? And the lack of action also reinforces stereotypes as well. And I would say, I say to the women's rights community, yes, we could say what we want, but do we have a proper shelter?
Not yet. Not as yet.
For women?
Not as yet.
Right? And I can say to men, who's responsible for creating shelters for men and boys? Is it women or is it men? But I can tell you across the board, men and women are failing each other. Mm-hmm. Right?
And I want to add to this. Remember, we had a politician who said that her preacher daddy took her back home to her husband who had abused her in some way. Mm-hmm. And the idea that this was a Christian lady whose Christian father, right, is adding to the narrative that when you married, that you should accept, especially particularly as a woman, you should accept some bad treatment from your husband because you are now joined together.
Do you think
And
it's
hold on,
doubt
hold
or
on. Let me say,
perception?
hold on. Let me say this. Despite what women's rights groups say, right, and like despite what even I say, the answer is obvious. We believe that women should stay with their abusers. That's what we believe because there are no shelters. There are no readily identifiable transportation systems where you could pick up the phone and say, Batman, the man is beating me, right? And then the bus pulls up at your house at the secret and takes you to the safe house.
But Aaron, let's
it's
look at it from a
it's a
different-
lack of action that's reinforcing the messages.
But let's look at it from a different perspective. I think it's just the way we look at it. CA mentioned the preacher lady and her father taking her back to the abuse of her husband. We have to see it from a different perspective. It may be perception. Some people's egos and some persons, they don't want the public to know, the general public, to know that their life is in a shambles, that they're not well put together as they assume that they are. And this is some of the reasons. So he would take his daughter in an abusive situation because he's looking at it from a different perspective.
I see what you're
He
saying.
doesn't want the public to know that they have this great gospel people are having the problems.
Now, look here,
and
'cause-
everybody is subjected to some level of problem.
Hold on, 'cause
but
like-
my daughter would not be going back to that house.
Right. And I could see the father that said, look here, we could deal with this different. You go back to that house. I come in with you. I can tell that man something.
No, I can just
No,
tell
no,
him
no, no,
something.
no. For the, right, but for the purposes of this business arrangement, right? We don't need the public to know
To know
anything.
what's
I mean,
going
there are
on.
all kinds of
Right,
things
yeah.
underneath there. But I think the more important point is that children watch. People are watching what we say and what we do and what we don't say and what we don't do. And it don't matter. We could talk. The lack of shelters across the board is a clear indicator of what our attitudes are.
But you look for your family, you look for your parents to be that shelter. So if you're having or experiencing some level of trauma or problems like that, who could you run to? So you're running to the person that you said, the nurturers. You're looking at your mother, this woman that raised you, and you're enduring this hardship as a woman. And who else should you be able to relate to a community? And if there is no daddy, then you say, I'm only going home to mother. But it's like the boys. The boys need the men. The boys need the men to show you what a man should do.
Yes.
But he's looking at the peer pressure in terms of the younger individuals or some of the old individuals that he know from the block. He's looking at the ones who he proposed to be looking good in society, but they're not doing the right things, but they might be the only ones that are looking out for him. They say, here, boy, you got lunch money, see, $10. My boy may not be living good and the lifestyle that he's living,
Right.
but he still takes the time to give the little boy $10 for his lunch. And to him, he is a national hero to him.
Yes.
Yes, because he's hungry. And again, we as a society reinforce those negative messages because we don't make it impossible for the young boy to have to turn to the man. If we really cared about the young people, then there would not be an opportunity for the boy, the drug dealer, the bad man, to be able to give him $10 for food because he'll always know where he could go get food. He'll never, in fact, he know where to take his friends who hungry to go get food.
His shoes bust up, his pants bust up, and his shirt
Ian,
bust
you just
up.
want me to row, man. I gotta get to these texts. Miss Williams, I gotta overcome the spirit of rowing. Okay. Mr. Newry, ask your guests, do lesbians have a soul? Why deceive the other person by lying and tricking one another when the truth is a man was created for woman and the woman was made for man? Anything else is mental, and if sex involved is mental and sexual abuse. Thank William. I just read the text. Another text. Great shows. They sending money. They really want us to read these.
Yes.
Great show as usual. The alpha male exists. I'd rather be the alpha male than the beta male. See, I think that's one of the reasons why that stereotype perpetuates itself. Because the young men will say, well, I'd rather be an alpha than a beta. Right? And not realizing that actually the positive attributes are with who you call the beta and not necessarily with who you call the alpha. Another text, I'm sorry, but y'all are completely lost. I respect your spirits of I reject. He said, I reject your spirits of confusion. Last comment, when these men talk, do they talk it honestly? Some men twist stories for clout and attention. Most men look like they love men around here more than women because everything is, let me help you, bro, but slam the door in women's faces. All I see is men helping men and loving men turning their backs on women and are using them for whatever they want and then clinging to other men. Plenty women getting killed lately. They ready to switch roles. You could build a man mentally, physically, emotionally, and he still tries to break you down. I think men think they have more feelings than women. All right.
I want to interject there. Is there a need for men to have other men supporting them?
Yeah.
And go to Mr. Williams to do that. And I find that a number of people now are rejecting or ignoring the need that men need a brotherhood in order to move forward. And it's the lack of the brotherhood, the lack of going to say, I have a problem.
Yes.
I need you to help me solve this.
Quality
It's causing the violence and the negative narrative, and especially the negativity towards women because they have no brotherhood.
Right. And like there's a shame in
Yes.
needing help and reaching out.
That's why, too, I agree, because if I was the prime minister today, one of the first things I would implement in the school conflict resolution and anger management. That would be on the curriculum, because to me, that's the root cause of a lot of the problems. Obviously, if we're not teaching our boys and our young men how to deal with anger, conflict resolution, then this is why we're having some of the problems. But let me come back. I just want to end by sharing with this the events we're having. This is why we're saying men leading by example. The space, we're saying these are positive men, right? And even we begin as everything, as you know, from the Christian perspective, we always begin with the church service because we acknowledge that there's a God in control. He's in charge of our lives, and he's the reason why we are who we are. So this is why we want to have their church service to highlight and to focus, more positive men who you can look to, men who are leading by example, who are not beating their wives, who are not raping their wives or girlfriends or fiancés, and who's not perpetrating violence against another male, rather walk away. Men leading by example. And then this is why we want to go into the schools next week, Monday, and talk to the principals and say, hey, let's talk to these young boys. I had an opportunity a couple of weeks ago at TG Glover, and that was an awesome experience. I spoke to all the boys, right? This is a major assembly. This is what we want. We want to be able to plant this positive seed, positive reinforcement. Then Wednesday, as we go into Rock Crusher, a lot of the men, like you say, not going to come to the church or the lodge or the sporting activity. These guys hanging out in the street. I enjoyed it. I love this. I live for this, to be able to walk up to men. Sometimes I was telling somebody, you find some men, they smoking, they herb, they put it down, they hold hands, they pray, they talk with you, they pick it back up. I can remember talking to a group of men, I talking to them, and they shooting dice, right? So between them throwing that dice, we having a nice conversation, and we eating, and they drinking, and we have a good conversation. So this is what we want to do. Go into the community, and this is not nothing new. I've been doing this now from last year, right? And then Fridays, the con highlight a lot of our men. We have women too at the park in Montel Heights, right? And we're inviting persons to come out. We want to share positive things, highlight, focus. These are positive men. One of my good persons, Big Bro, who's saying, I have a dream, right? And then Saturday, we're going to have the awards ceremony. I'd like to be trying to get a Jonkun group for Russia. I'd love to see men coming out there and sharing and supporting, you know what I mean? And say, hey, I am an example of a good male. See, Newry is a good example. Munnings, you are an example. I'm an example. And many other men. We're saying we are an example of what a good man is.
Stand up behind.
Except for Ian, who like mash me up on a man down Wednesday. Anyway, let me get to the last of these texts and we will wrap up the show. Everybody get the last word. CA, it's not an issue of fear. It's an issue of the agenda is to remove or replace men from their traditional roles. It's a reality. For me, it falls under the same category of transgenders. They want to be something they were not designed to be naturally. I don't know about you, but when society usually goes against the laws of nature, the end or a great cataclysmic event usually isn't far off. But it's interesting that society expects me to be independent, yet men use this as an excuse to disrespect women in relationships, using this as a reason. On the other hand, women seem to think that their independence gives them the right to disrespect and encroach on the role of men, ultimately emasculating men. Okay, I want to say this. I think systems emasculate men far less than women do, because men emasculate men as well. Interesting text. But the text that says, y'all don't use my commentary as an excuse. Oh, men do not use this as an excuse to disrespect women in relationships. They were making a correction in the text. Another text, I want to know why BPL is off in the West. A storm traveling and you live. Great show as usual. The Bahamian man been in crisis. You see how we get treated during Father's Day, just crab and rice and thing. And that's all we get.
SCA.
But I think that is an example.
I just be glad when I get crab and nuts. Sometimes I even get a gift.
This is what I saying. Father's Day is an example, right, of a sort of a disregard, it juxtaposed to Mother's Day.
At least I get
And
something.
The big glamour, when the Mother's Day, everything rolls out, the red carpet.
All right, so listen, as we close out the show, gentlemen, y'all get off lucky today. I had 17,000 questions to grill y'all, man, with do we have rites of passage? When and how did you become a man, and how did you know you was a man? Platonic relationships with women, important. Are men okay? Do men make the link between physical health and mental, emotional, and sexual health and wellness? How do men make space for other men? We talk about that. Do Bahamian men have an obligation to younger generations of men and women? Do men's relationships with their mothers and primary caregivers inform their romantic and sexual relationships? What's the percentage of men support paternity leave? Are dads just as good as or better than stay-at-home moms? Who's the better hair platter, the mummy or the daddy? And what percentage of Bahamian men have a problem with their women making more money than they make? But the most important questions I had to ask y'all was this. Are Bahamian men lazy? Here are your choices. Yes?
Now, Aaron,
No.
Aaron, you can make
Listen,
Bubble, you
this
can make
multiple-
Bubble, you can make Bubble go viral again, Aaron.
Yep.
Listen, Bobo could do what he wants just once he waken. Here are your multiple choices. Yes, no, some are, but not the majority. Work ethic, local opportunities, salaries, and work conditions are unattractive. Many men are unprepared and underskilled for the job of their choice. It costs less money to be unemployed. Bahamians are subsistence workers, and there are more suitable work models that we refuse to give them. Bahamian men prefer to be self-employed. And then, how do we motivate the worker in a post-drug era Bahamas in the face of cultural imperialism and a shrinking economy?
I think to all the frustration that we experience as a people, as a man, I think that the young men are looking for a way forward. They want answers to know where do they go, who do they turn to, what can they do to solve their problems. I think that sums up what we're dealing with the young men. CA?
Well, I won that paper. Yeah, I got to get a copy of that. There's some great questions, man, Aaron. That's what I want to say.
Set the show for another time so we could have the discussion on it.
Absolutely. Y'all come with y'all round shirts on, man. It didn't feel, it felt perfect, you know.
Or it can be a man down then.
Yeah. It felt perfect. Thank you, gentlemen, for entertaining me on this International Men's Day. Thank you for helping me create this.
This has been Guardian Radio in the AM with C.A. Newry and Aaron Green, who joined me. And thank you very much, Ian Munnings. And thank you very much, Dave Williams, for joining us. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.